Welcome to Reflections. I'm your host Jaswant Lalwani. We are at Christie's, the world's famous auction house in the center of New York City at Rockefeller Center. My guest today is Nishad Avari, specialist and head of Department of Indian Art at Christie's, New York. So welcome, Nishad.
Thank you so much for having me, Jaswant. It's a pleasure.
Nishad, let's start from the very beginning. How did your journey begin? Start from India.
Well, yeah, it was an extraordinary journey. A series of coincidences actually brought me to where I am. My academic background isn't in art. My academic background is in political science, actually. But when I was in India, I took a gap year before coming to America for college. And during that gap year, I found myself working at the National Gallery of Modern Art in Mumbai. And this was under Dr. Saryu Doshi at the time, who was the director of the Mumbai wing. And she was a fantastic teacher. I mean, I always had an interest in art. There was always a little bit of a passion for it. But I saw how it could be a career and a profession. And this was during the time of a traveling Picasso exhibition that came to the National Gallery of Modern Art from the Musée Picasso in Paris. So it was the event of the decade, I would say, in India. More than 100 original works by Picasso coming to Mumbai and Delhi. So everybody who was involved in the art world, even in small ways, came to see the show. And I was a docent, so I got to take them around, meet a lot of people, and off the back of that experience, I got a couple of job offers. So I ended up interning with an auction house before coming to the US for college. And it was one of the best experiences of my professional life. So after graduating, I called them up and asked them if they had anything.
You almost fell into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, after graduating, I called them up and I was like, do you have a job for me? And they were like, do you want to work in New York? And I was like, see you there. And the rest is history.
Now, Nishad, from what I know, you've had 8 years of auction experience. Are the full 8 years at Christie's or where else?
It's actually been closer to 20 years now, just
Oh my
once.
gosh.
I had 8 years with Saffron Art, which is an Indian auction house, both in Mumbai and in New York. And I've been at Christie's for almost 11 years now.
The question which I always wanted to know, what is your audience profile? I mean, now you are in charge of Indian art.
That's right.
So your audience are also mainly Indians. There may be a few non-Indians. But what are the profile of this audience? Who are they?
Well, it's gone through a very interesting evolution over the course of my involvement in this world. At the very outset, we started auctions in this category in the mid-90s, standalone auctions in this category. And we found that most of our collectors were non-resident Indians who lived abroad and wanted to reconnect with their culture in a meaningful way and bring a piece of it home. And that was very encouraging. Over the course of the last 20 years, it's changed, the collector profile. We're seeing right now a much wider engagement. Of course, there are a lot of South Asian collectors who live across the world. Everyone is so mobile these days, with homes in multiple places. But we're seeing interest from non-South Asian communities as well. We have a very healthy interest from East Asian collectors who see a sort of synergy between say, Chinese modern art and South Asian modern art. But we're also seeing, on the back of several museum shows in the West of artists in our category, interest from people who have seen their work and responded purely aesthetically to it, and then started learning about the history of it. So it's very encouraging.
You mentioned something which I hadn't thought about. There are diaspora Indians who are also coming to buy here.
Correct.
Why don't they go to India to buy it?
They buy all over. They're very discerning. They know, all collectors actually today, they know what they want. They're educating themselves. And wherever the opportunity arises to find something, our auctions are very global these days. You can participate online, you can participate on the phone. You don't have to be physically present in the auction room. So if a great work comes up for auction in India, they'll definitely buy.
So if I was someone interested in a Hussein,
Correct.
and there was a Hussein in Bombay or wherever, India, London, Dubai and New York, you would help me navigate where I should buy?
Absolutely.
Is there a price point difference if I bought one versus the other? I mean, an equivalent piece of art.
Not really in terms of the basic price of the work of art. And then, of course, there are add-ons depending on where you take delivery. You pay for things like shipping and
No,
insurance.
I'm talking about the basic art.
No. It's a global market, and it's very aware of what's happening in every part of the world. And especially at auction, prices are set in an open market. It's a competition, right? So everybody knows what the level they're willing to go up to, no matter where it comes up for sale.
So a piece of art selling for $1 million in New York would be hypothetically or theoretically $1 million in India.
Yes,
in the
believe
ballpark.
So.
In general.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then the next question is, in general, not just on price points, how do you help navigate this group of people? Some know art, some don't know, some know the difference. What's the process?
It's actually a very interesting and rewarding experience, because when I see people who haven't collected, for example, come and I ask them to go with their gut as a first course of action. Does the piece speak to you? Do you respond to it? Do you see yourself living with it on your walls? You have to wake up to it every day, so you have to like it. And then we talk about budget. Does this fit in your budget? My advice is always set a budget for yourself, but get the best possible that you can within that budget. Instead of buying 10 pieces that fit in that budget, buy the best one work in that amount of money. And I think that's a good way to go. Once you've found something that you respond to, and I strongly believe the more you see, the more you know. So I encourage a lot of collectors who are just starting out to go to art fairs, to go to galleries around the world, wherever they travel, and to develop their eye, to train their eye, and see what they respond to aesthetically.
And do you help with that? If I came to you, would you and say, look, I don't know anything about this, would you guide me? Would you take me around?
Absolutely. And we can provide the historical context, we can tell you why a particular piece is significant, and what the aesthetics, what the artist may have meant when he was creating that work of art, when he or she was creating that work of art. But for example, if you came and told me I'm traveling to Venice in the next month, I could give you a list of shows to go and see there, which would help you develop your eye. And then happy to talk over a coffee or a drink and discuss your experiences.
We are going to take a short break and be right back with Nishad Avari of Christie's. We are back again in conversation with Nishad Avari of Christie's. Nishad, times have changed. I'm not in that category of people, but do a lot of people prefer going online now as opposed to in person? I mean, I'm the kind who would only do in person because of my age group. But is there a whole move towards online?
I think people are getting more and more comfortable online, especially maybe not people who are looking to buy for the first time, but people who know what they're looking at are very comfortable buying works of art sight unseen, so they don't have to see it in person. But the process of bidding online is so intuitive. There's all our live auctions are streamed live on our website. You just log in and you can place your bids, and the auctioneer responds to you as a bidder, as if you were in the room. So it's a very seamless experience for an online bidder in our sales.
Okay, I think what I was trying to ask you is the aesthetics of the painting, or what they like. Is it the same experience online as opposed to coming physically and seeing these paintings?
Well, we try to make it as close as possible. We have a very exciting feature on our website, for example, where we use augmented reality, where collectors can hold up their phones against their wall and see exactly what a painting would look like on that wall in their home. So that's one of the great features that we offer. But we do hold their hands and walk them through the process. And as I said, if they're familiar with the artist and the kind of work, they already know what kind of aesthetic experience it offers in person. So they're comfortable buying it sight unseen.
Currently, you have an auction taking place at Christie's. Is it the first all-Indian auction, or am I?
No. So we've been selling South Asian art here at Christie's in individual standalone sales since 1995. And across the world. In New York, in London, we used to sell in Bombay, in Dubai, and in Hong Kong. Right now, we do 2 auctions of South Asian modern and contemporary art each year as part of Asian Art Week in New York. So we do 2 sales of South Asian modern and contemporary art each year in New York, one in the spring and one in the fall. And our fall auction is coming up next.
despite my knowledge of Indian art, and I think I have reasonable knowledge, I still don't understand which are the standouts, which are the ones which are upcoming, even though you deal only with recognized artists. But how would I know this? Will you explain to me which are your best 5, for example?
Absolutely, and I'd be happy to walk anyone through the exhibition at any time. But this year, in 2024, we're very, very happy to be celebrating a lot of our modernist artists whose birth centenaries it is. So, for example, Francis Newton Sousa and Ram Kumar were born in 1924. And it's an honor to be able to pay this kind of tribute to their legacies through the art that we're presenting here. So we have some standout examples of work by Sousa from the breadth of his career. He started painting in India in the late 1940s and continued till he passed away into the early 2000s. And I think what we have on offer in the sale this season covers almost every decade of his career. Alongside these works, we have a fantastic collection of works by Ram Kumar from his family. These works have never been seen in public before, and they document the very, very early part of his career when he was painting in Delhi in the late 1940s again, and then when he went to Paris and he was a student in the atelier of Fernand Léger. We have a notebook from his time in that atelier with 26 works of art which are revelatory in my opinion. And I think those are real standouts this season. We also have fantastic paintings from the 1960s by artists like Jahangir Sabawala, Akbar Padamsi. We have a wonderful collection from Venezuela, from the family of the ambassador of Venezuela to India in the 1970s, which includes tantric works of art and non-representative works of art by artists like Swaminathan, G.R. Santosh, Satish Gujral and Biren De. And these have been in South America since the late 1970s. So to bring them back and have them displayed in public after 50 years is a really rewarding part of my job.
You know, if I took a poll and went around and asked a group of Indians, like a focus group, name 3 or 4 artists which you know, invariably, with no exception, I'll get Hussain, Raza, Sousa, and they'll stop. My question to you is, which is not, I'm not holding you responsible, but I think I'm holding the whole area responsible. Why is the knowledge among the average Indian, not the collector, but the average Indian, hasn't progressed beyond Hussain, Raza, Sousa, and maybe 1 or 2 more? Why are we stuck in that for the last 20 years?
First of all, I think it's changing. I think
yes, I do know.
The infrastructure has grown so much in the last years that there are actually many more venues for the average Indian, as you say, to walk in and see art by artists that are not part of this progressive artist group we like to say. They were very important in the foundations of modern art in India. Raza, Sousa and Hussain were 3 of the 6 founding members of the progressive artist movement. And they really helped define what it meant to be a modern artist in the subcontinent right after independence. And I think that's why there's a lot of recall against their names. And several of them, they had very larger than life personalities as well. And Hussain was a fantastic publicist of his own work and his own life. So a lot of people know about them because of that. But now, as the market opens up, as it becomes more global, not just Indians, but people who are interested in art across the world can walk into a museum. You can walk into the Museum of Modern Art a couple of blocks away, for example, and see paintings by V.S. Gaitonde, Mohan Samant, contemporary works by artists like Shilpa Gupta and Zarina, which are absolutely fantastic. And so I think, to your point, it is changing now. And that's a very positive change.
So it's no longer fashionable just to say I own a Hussain and stop there?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, it's time again for a short break, and we'll be right back with Nishad Avari of Christie's. We are in conversation with Nishad Avari at Christie's, the world's leading auction house. So Nishad, going back to our questions, the future of Indian art is a general question. Is that, I've got 2 points to make. One is it growing, but more importantly, I have found that the new Indian, the younger Indian, most of them they've integrated so much into mainstream that some of them don't even know about Indian art and don't even want to know. What are you all doing about it?
So I think your question had two parts. So to answer the first part, it's certainly growing. The market has never been stronger than it is right now. We just saw that, for example, in the recently concluded Armory Art Fair in New York. There were several galleries from India that came and represented the artists that they work with. And in addition to that, there were several international galleries who were working with Indian artists or artists from the Indian diaspora, also showing their work there. So it is definitely growing. And collectors, I'm sure their attendance at fairs like this is massive. So the amount of collectors that may not have even been familiar with artists of Indian descent before now start seeing their work on a regular basis and get much more familiar with it. What we do at Christie's is, of course, put out works in our biannual auctions, but we also support several events around the arts that take place. For example, the Kochi Biennale that happens every 2 years in Kochi. Recently, the Venice Biennale opened, and there was great representation from South Asia. So it was fantastic to be a part of that and be there and show collectors there what was happening. There was a solo exhibition of Hussein that was put on by the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, which is one of the most important institutions in this field, and is also doing a lot to see it grow. They have several international exchanges with other museums around the world. They've done shows in Australia, and Venice, of course, and we're looking forward to shows that they collaborate with across the world. We've seen the effect that these museum shows have, for example, on knowledge about our part of the market is very impactful.
You see, I feel that since the last few years, maybe 5-6 years or however long, India's resurgence and position in the geopolitical world has grown astronomically, which would beg the question, has Indian art grown equally?
It's certainly on that trajectory. There are several new collectors that we engage with each season, and these are not tentative collectors. They're not, sort of engaging with the market at the lower levels. They're coming in and they're buying the best of the best because they're educating themselves about that. They're very discerning. They don't just want any Hussein. They know exactly what period of Hussein's work to look for, what sort of provenance, what sort of exhibition history, and that's really good because it builds a solid foundation for the market to grow even further on.
Is there any country or any place, from the diaspora point of view, which is very strong in Indian art or is dispersed all over the world?
I think it's fairly global. Sometimes it tends to congregate around where art schools are, but there's a strong presence on the East Coast of artists from the Indian diaspora. There's a strong presence in the UK, in Canada, but I think borders are less and less meaningful these days, and people are more and more mobile. So it's very hard to put demographics to it.
Nishad, talk about you personally. Where do you see yourself going from here? I mean, can you branch out from Indian art to Indian antiquities to South Asian art as a whole, Pakistan, Bangladesh? So what's there?
There's actually a lot, and I'm very fortunate to be where I am today because I'm surrounded by specialists who have knowledge about every single field of art under the sun. If I want to, for example, I'm writing about a painting by Francis Newton Sousa, and I want to talk about it in relation to a painting by Francis Bacon, or one of the old masters, I can just go to a colleague in another department and ask them for their opinion on it and what they think the synergies are between these various artists. But it is also very encouraging because collectors don't exclusively look at one genre or the other. They look at what they like. So I could very well be working with a collector of modern South Asian art who responds to a work by a 20th or 21st century American painter. And then to make that introduction and to see their collection grow in these ways and new conversations that happen. between our category and others. I mean, we have conversations all the time between South Asian classical art and antiquities and modernism, because modernism didn't emerge in a vacuum. There was years and years of artistic tradition in the subcontinent, and they draw on that very heavily. So to see the two in conjunction in our galleries right now, for example, sparks lots of new connections, not just for collectors, but for us as well.
You said something very interesting, which I've been reading recently, and this could not have happened 5 years back, where they're comparing, like Sousa, as an example, this is, with a Francis Bacon, a Bosch.
Yeah.
Now, something like that could not have happened 5 years back, because the Indians would have said, who's Bosch and who's Bacon, the subject would have ended there. So I'm very glad to note that now they're being compared to some of the eminent artists, both European art and British art or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that to me is a very promising sign that we've taken on to the global stage. And
but I do promise you that these comparisons did happen before. Sousa used to be a drinking buddy of Francis Bacon's.
No, I know that. I'm aware of it. But what I'm saying now, it's being spoken about and people are understanding, as opposed to the few rare aficionados. Today everyone knows, or most people do know, or if they don't know, they find out.
Absolutely.
So that's a major change, where we're integrating Indian art with even international Western art. Nishad, one last question, which I ask everyone who's an Indian. Why have Indian antiquities not taken on is not of the same interest as paintings? Why have they languished?
I think they are.
Relatively.
To be honest, the collecting base and the knowledge base and the scholarship around Indian antiquities is far more developed than it is around Indian modern art. The museums around the world have collections of Indian antiquities. And we draw on it heavily to see the kind of influences they've had over the centuries on our art and continue to have today. And there have been collectors for much longer in the classical field than there have been in the modern and contemporary field.
You're right. Among the non-Indians, they are very interested in Indian antiquities, but the Indians as such, I feel, still haven't grasped the full enormity of what our culture is all about in Indian antiquities.
I think that's a natural corollary of what's happening today, with just the ways in which people are able to interact. Like you said, the online medium is offering so many people who wouldn't have been able to experience things the opportunity to do so now. So I think that's changing.
Thank you, Nishad, for being here.
Thank you so
much. And thank you for watching Reflections. Coming up is my New York experience, which I'd like to share. New York has many world-renowned restaurants, but one which is etched in my memory is Odeon in Tribeca. Odeon was founded by Keith McNally of Balthazar fame in 1980. I discovered Odeon when it had just opened, located on the fringes of no man's land, where a subculture peculiar to downtown flourished. I still go to Odeon regularly for its retro look and unbeatable burgers, but two major anecdotes stand out. We were entertaining the biggest Bollywood star of then and now at our home. On a whim, we decided to take the celebrity to Odeon for a midnight dinner. The area was considered dangerous, darkly lit, and had a decidedly noir feeling. I remember the Bollywood star remarking, "There goes his career, as we would not come out of this alive." But we all lived to tell the tale, and this star soared to heights hitherto unseen and remains in the stratospheric realm even to this day. The second involved the prominent but struggling graffiti artists Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring. One day after Studio 54, we all went for a late-night aperitif to Odeon. A few weeks later, I was presented with a drawing from each of them. I politely declined. Needless to say, both Basquiat and Haring art is sold at astronomical levels in the world's auction houses, but I am left with only the memories of Odeon and New York. Thank you for watching Reflections, and thank you for being on this journey with me. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.